Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day trial at www.audibletrial.com. Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Episode 42, Tulip O'Hare. This week on the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks show, we'll be covering the butt-kicking past of one of, I keep saying one of my favorites because they're all my favorites in this whole series, character from DC Vertigo's amazing series Preacher. In this episode, we'll be learning about Tulip O'Hare. I mean, a woman who can fight, shoot, and kick butt with the rest of them. Now, I try to keep the show clean. I don't swear a lot anyway. It almost seems like I should swear in this one because she is, to say kick butt is not doing this woman justice. But she kicks it as good as any of them. And I want to remind everybody, if you want to see some of the pages I'm talking about in this episode, because I go back and I reread all these things, especially if I have the books and I have all the Preacher series. And I go ahead and I post the pages, a lot of the pages I'm talking about, and some pages that I'm not, over on the site. So if you go to the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks.com, if you go to Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks.com, go to the episodes page, you can actually find the post for this episode. Actually, every episode has a post over there, and you can see the pages that I'm talking about and a bunch of extra pages. Also, if you get a second, head over to iTunes and subscribe and leave a review. I'd love it if we could give some more reviews for the show. They help the show sort of move up the rankings and maybe get recognized or get noticed so that we get more listeners, because that would be neat. So if you get a second, head over to iTunes and leave a review. I'd really appreciate it. So let's get into the life of Tulip O'Hare. Now, we've spoken a lot about Tulip's life with Jesse and Cassidy as they search for God across the country in, the other episodes. In episode 40 and with Jesse, so episode 40 is Jesse Custer. Episode 41 is with Cassidy, so you can listen to those first if you want, or you can listen to this one and then go back. It doesn't matter. So we know a lot about her. So in this episode, I want to start from the beginning and learn about the life of young Tulip O'Hare and how she grew up into the woman that we know in the comic. The woman that, whose strength and love and just tenacity made really everything work out. I mean, let's be honest. Without her, Jesse is nothing. Tulip's story starts out in blood and death. Her father, Jake O'Hare, is in his local drinking with his buddies, and he's waiting for the call from the hospital to tell him that his son has just been born. Now, Jake tells his buddies that the boy will be named John William Grady O'Hare, and that he is going to make his mark on the world. I mean, he is, he's this, square jaw, big, burly guy. And it's really funny because he isn't even considering that he could have a girl. It's always a boy. And actually someone in the bar says, well, what if it's a girl? And everyone just laughs. They think it's hilarious. Like that would never happen, which is really funny. And Jake gets the call from the hospital, but when he answers the phone, he learns that his wife died in childbirth, and the baby is actually a girl, not a boy. Now, he tells his buddies this, and when reading it, the art, of course, by the amazing late great Steve Dillon, it shows that, to me at least when I read it, it's hard to tell which bit of news he's more sad or disappointed about, that his wife is dead or that it's a girl. Now, he goes to the hospital and he's really unsure what he should even do. Like the nurse even says something along the lines of, do you want to see her? And he's like, I don't know, should I? And the nurse is like, yes. And, you can probably guess, well, you might not guess it. She could have had a horrible life. She doesn't. But you could probably guess what happens is he, especially if you're a parent, he goes in and the nurse hands him the baby. And you can just see that the guy's heart just melts. He says something along the lines of, "Oh, so you're a girl. That's not so bad, huh?" And you can see he's instantly in love, and it's really sweet because he's this huge burly guy, and here's this little tiny baby. And we sort of then do a time jump, and we see Tulip again, and she's about 8, and her and her dad are cleaning guns at the kitchen table. You got to see her, right? She is a only child, a girl, a single dad who hunts and fishes and does those types of things, and that's what he's teaching his daughter. He doesn't care one way or another. She's not a boy. He doesn't care that she's a girl. He loves her, and he's just sort of imparting his wisdom. And they actually go out and shoot, and she is very proud, or he's very proud, because even at an early age, she is a great shot. And again, there's a lot of cool pages over on the site. Some of them get a little graphic this week and this whole series because there's a lot of shooting and sex and whatnot. But if you head over to the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks.com page, go to episodes and look for post 40. What episode is this again? 42. You can find that, and you can see all the pictures and all the pages. So life is really hard, though, for a tomboy in Texas being raised by a single dad. And there's this great page, and it's over on the site, where she sees all the girls in class, and she asks them if they've seen Kelly's Heroes, of course, which is like a war thing, the night before on TV, and they all look at her, like she's a freak, and they tell her she's a freak. Then she goes over to the boys and asks them the same question, and they do the same. They think say she's a freak because she doesn't like girl things and she likes boys things. And she is totally confused. Where does she fit in? She doesn't. And to make matters worse, when she's called in for fighting, her dad learns that she's extremely smart. She's gifted. So all these things just set her apart. The boys won't play with her because she's a girl and she's weird. And the girls won't play with her because she acts like a boy and she's weird. Not to mention, on some level, they probably know she is smarter than all of them. And there's actually an awesome scene where Jake is at a bar, her dad, and he's drinking with his buddies, and he's complaining that the school won't let Tulip play football, even though she's stronger and faster than most of the boys. And he ends up, in his complaint, complaining about this by saying something along the lines of until we have equality of the sexes in the United States, this country is going to be lost. And it is such a great turnaround for the character, and it shows so much growth, and it's just hilarious because his friends they have no idea who this person is anymore. They have no idea what to say. They don't know if he's joking, and it's just sweet how much you see the guy. This guy loves her. It's just a sweet thing. If you've listened to other episodes where there's like a father-son or father-daughter thing, I'm a sucker for it. I'm a parent, and whenever they do, a writer can really capture a touching father-son, father-daughter relationship. I'm a sucker for it. So that is one that is in this comic. Now, things, again, she's an outsider, but she's got her dad. Right? But unfortunately, things don't stay that way for Tulip. While they're on a hunting trip, now she's in her teens, looked like she's about 13, maybe 14. They don't say, but I'm sort of gauging it by the drawing. Her and her dad are on a hunting trip, and they're separated because he's gone off to go to the bathroom. And she hears a gunshot, and she hears someone say, "Oh, God, no." And she runs to investigate, and she is just horrified to see her dad. It's a very undignified death for the man, but his pants are around his ankles, his butt is up in the air, and he's holding on to a roll of TP with half his head blown off. I mean, he's been killed in a hunting accident, and now Tulip is alone. She doesn't have any family at this point. We next see her at college. Now she's 17, and she doesn't have a lot of friends in school. We get sort of that feeling from reading it because she is the smartest girl to school. And actually, someone comes up to her, a woman named, or a girl named Amy, this name, Grinderbinder, to talk to her and says, she knows Tulip's the smartest, but she also likes how she doesn't take any crap from people. And the two really strike up a friendship. And it's an odd pairing because Tulip was a fighter and a tomboy. She grew up like that. And Amy is really someone who's been born of privilege and money. And she really only got into the school, you find out later, because her dad pretty much paid her way in. But she's a grounded person. She's a good person. And I would think she has to be for Tulip to end up, her and Tulip being best friends. Now, Amy wants to show Tulip what it's like to unwind and party and just relax a little bit. And she takes her to a frat party. So they're heading over to the frat party, and they're dressed to the nines, and they're in Amy's truck. And on the way, Amy shows Tulip a shotgun that's in the back seat that her dad gave her for protection. Now, this is interesting because we know Tulip as someone who loves guns and shooting, but you got to remember, at this time now, she's horrified of guns. They killed her dad, and she really doesn't want to have anything to do with them. She's afraid of them. And again, as we've learned in other episodes, episode 40 with Jesse and episode 41 with Cassidy, she is now a woman who can shoot in those later issues of the comic. And some of this origin is taken from comics, and some are taken from, some of the origin is actually taken from some of the one-shots, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But while at the frat party, Amy and Tulip get separated as the party kicks into high gear, and Tulip is searching for Amy when she walks into a dark room and she sees Amy pinned down to the bed by several men who, this is going to be a gang rape. I mean, these men are going to rape her, and it's a hard few pages to read. It's pretty disgusting, and it's scary. And Tulip sees this, and she runs out. And we're wondering, that seems unlike her. And then we see the real Tulip O'Hare when Amy's red truck comes smashing through the bedroom wall where Amy is about to be assaulted. Now, Tulip jumps out of the truck and starts firing the shotgun over the heads of the frat boys. In the end, this is pretty powerful stuff. In the end, everyone else is ducked down and hiding. The leader of the gang, he is standing in front of Tulip, just petrified. And Tulip trains the shotgun on him and pulls the trigger. But click, no more bullets. And she doesn't know this, we learn later on. She meant to kill this man. Boy, idiot, And the kid just pisses right there and then on the floor because, his pants are around his ankles, and just lies up on the floor in the next panel sucking his thumb. And I have to say, I really wanted him to get hurt a lot more than he did, because he didn't get hurt at all. I wanted something to happen to this kid, and but what are you going to do? Now Tulip, hates guns, and she's super freaked out when she leaves. But Amy is like, you saved me. I know your dad died, but and guns are bad here and there. But they can also be used for good. If you hadn't had that, God knows what, we know what they would have done to me. Now, after things calm down, Amy's dad actually dies, and she inherits all his money. I mean, millions and millions of dollars. And she and Tulip decide that they're going to just take a few years off school and see the U.S. Of course, they never go back. And it's actually then on the road, she meets Jesse in a bar, and they hook up. And this is her first time. And she goes back and tells Amy, and she is in love. And now a word from our sponsor. For you, the listeners of the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks Show, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. Now, I've been recommending Norse mythology. I've been recommending it, but I can never seem to say it right. Norse mythology, written by Neil Gaiman. It's 6 hours, 29 minutes. It's unabridged. It's narrated by Neil Gaiman. It's a great book, and just hearing him say it, read it, narrate it is fantastic. So check that out. If you want to download a free copy of that, free audiobook, just head over to audibletrial.com/heroes, villains, and sidekicks. Again, that's audibletrial.com/heroes, villains, sidekick for your free audiobook download. And now back to the show. This is where there's a big jump in her origin. After this happens in, I want to say, issue 51 and 52, this what I've just been talking about. And then we sort of jump and we're back into the regular sort of series where she's doing all these adventures. But we do get a piece of her life when it's her, Amy, and Jesse, when they just first meet and they're out on the road. And that came from a one-shot, High in the Saddle, where Tulip, Amy, and Jesse are living the life, on the edge, making their way across country and stealing cars as they go. But not just a car here and there. I mean, this one-shot opens with them stealing an entire trailer of high-end cars. But the gig goes off the rails, and all the cars are destroyed. And this puts them in Dutch with the man they were stealing the cars for. They were supposed to deliver these cars to this man. He was going to give them like $1 million, I think it was. And of course, he was going to be able to sell them for much more. So he feels he is now out of money. So in turn, this sort of Texas gangster, he's got a hat and all that, 10-gallon hat, wants them to repay him by stealing horses that are going to end up going to this butcher. Well, Jesse, we know he's a cowboy at heart. He says he won't steal horses, and that sets in motion a showdown. Now, the crew then teams up with a marshal, and they together end up bringing down this gangster and prevailing. So it's just neat to see this little slice of life before Jesse had the word. They were all young. They were having fun. Him and Jesse were just having, her and Jesse were having sex pretty much everywhere and anywhere. And it was neat to see them young and sort of getting in trouble. So we get that intro into her origin in issue 51 and 52 of Preacher, and then of course I jumped over to the High in the Saddle. It might have been Tall in the Saddle. I think it was High in the Saddle, where we see these early years, and then we can also then just jump back in and pick up in the series, the actual Preacher series, and as we talked about in episode 40 with Jesse, Tulip and he, right in the beginning of the series, are stealing cars. That's how we meet them. And this is, of course, when Jesse is jumped and taken by Jody back to Texas. Now, she thinks that he just left her. And, of course, she starts making bad decisions. She tries to become a hitman. Things don't go well for her. And when she's about to be killed, because the job went south, Cassidy saves her life and her adventures begin. And then, of course, they meet up with Jesse, and all this whole thing is set in motion. I want to jump again to where we really see what she is capable of. Now, Cassidy, when she escapes Cassidy's manipulation, she goes to her best friend Amy, and she explains everything. Now, she is at rock bottom. She thinks Jesse is dead. She is, though, going to get strong again. She is going to move forward. Well, Amy says, he's alive. She can't believe this, but he shows up, and they're together again, and it's pretty awesome. And then it's really time for the final showdown with the Grail and Jesse's fight with Cassidy, as we've talked about in these other episodes. Now, he tells Tulip she is going to be at the battle with him. They're going to fight this together, and he lies. And he leaves while she's asleep because he doesn't want her to be killed. And this is awesome because when she wakes up, she is super pissed. She grabs a bunch of guns and heads into the battle. Now, when she gets to where the Grail is located, she just starts shooting, destroying everything in sight. She is awesome. I mean, the guys, do things here and there, but she takes on the Grail, like almost, I don't even know how many men she kills in the 10 pages that she just destruction. But, before she can actually save Jesse, Hair Star, of course, orders his sniper to kill him. Jesse is shot. Now, Tulip and Star have this awesome multi-page gun battle. It's so amazing. The choreography, Steve Dillon, it's so amazing. In so few panels and how they're placed to see this action happening. And again, they're over at the site, Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks.com. And boy, finally the battle ends and they're in really close quarters, guns, blazing, and she sees her opening and she takes it. She puts her gun under Star's chin and just blows the back of his head off. I mean, the whole back of his head, boom, gone. Now, of course, as we learned in other episodes 40 and 41, Jesse is not dead. He is alive. And, you think they're just going to make up and they're going to be like, oh, we're happy, we're in love. But Tulip is angry. I mean, she has been lied to and betrayed by him. He said he wouldn't leave her. And just everything that's gone on. I mean, this has just been years of absolute crap. And she just needs some time on her own. And the two separate. But Jesse he cannot leave her. I mean, these two are in love. It's Princess Bride. It's true love, right? And he actually, at one point he's in the park and he sees a cop like beating on this horse. So of course I think he beats up the cop. He takes the horse and he rides off to find Tulip, where of course they profess their love and they ride off into the sunset. And again, I've talked about it in the Preacher or the Jesse episode. They literally ride off into the sunset on a horse. It is one of the best endings in comics. I love how they ended this book. And doing this series has been fun just because I've pretty much reread now all 66 issues and the one-shots because I like to add details from different pages that really highlight who the character is. Now, on the show, on AMC, her character, they have not really done a whole lot with her. She is definitely as tenacious and battle-hardened as Tulip is in the comic, but we don't really have a big background on her yet. Unfortunately, hers is the character they have really done the least with in development. I mean, it's a huge ensemble cast. I've just started season 2 and I've noticed it's sort of shrunk down a bit. It's sort of the 3 of them. So I'm hoping we're going to learn more and more about her. She is an integral and just key component to that group. So I'm really hoping that they work on that character as much as and develop it as much as they have had in the comic. Because it's one of those books where the female character wasn't just either set dressing or a damsel in distress. I mean, she was a partner in every respect. So I'm hoping they do the same thing on the show. So doing this has been a lot of fun. Again, we're going to be doing more in this series. The next episode we're going to be working on or doing is Arseface. And again, an awesome and unique character. We're going to be doing one on Hair Star, Jody and TC, Featherstone, she's in the Grail, and a few other Grail characters, and probably one on Genesis itself, that we don't really know a lot about, but a little bit of the background on the character and where some people think the character actually originated from. It's in a whole different comic, and we'll try to find out whether that's where Genesis came from or not. We'll see. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks Show. I know I love putting it together. Again, if you get a second, head over to the site and check out some of the posts for these episodes. Also, head over to iTunes and leave a review. I really appreciate it. The theme music was by Broke for Free. And again, you can head over to the site, heroesvillainsandsidekicks.com, to see tons of photos in this Preacher series. They're fun. They're a little graphic, so be careful if you're not used to that thing or don't like that kind of thing. But they're not too bad. Okay, guys, I'm Kevin Volo. This is the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks Show. We'll be back next week with more. Take care.